I want you to know something before I tell you this story. I am already dead. I know that sounds strange, but I need you to understand that before we begin. Because what I'm about to tell you, it changes everything. It was a Tuesday night. Rain was hitting my window like it had somewhere to be. I was on my couch, wine in hand, completely alone. Or at least, I thought I was. He had been in my apartment for 2 hours before I even knew he existed. 2 hours. While I made dinner, he was there. While I watched TV, he was there. While I laughed at something stupid on my phone, he was there, waiting. And the worst part? I walked right past him, twice. This is the story of the last night of my life. And I'm telling it to you because someone needs to know what really happened in apartment 4B on Ravenwood Street. Someone needs to know his face, because he's still out there, and you might already know him. Let me tell you about my life before that night, because I think that's important. I think you need to know who I was, not just how I died. My name is Sarah Holloway. I was 26 years old. I worked at a small graphic design firm downtown, the kind of place where everyone knows your coffee order and argues about fonts like it actually matters. I loved my job. I loved my tiny apartment. I loved my life. Apartment 4B, Ravenwood Street, 3rd floor, 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, a kitchen barely big enough to turn around in, and a living room window that looked out over the whole street below. I used to sit at that window for hours, just watching people. A woman walking her dog at midnight, a couple arguing outside the pizza place across the street, a man in a gray coat who stood at the bus stop every single morning at 7:43, never a minute earlier, never a minute later. I liked routines. I liked patterns. I liked knowing what came next. Funny, isn't it? The one night everything went wrong, I never saw it coming. I had lived in that apartment for 2 years, 2 years of feeling completely, totally safe. The building had a security door downstairs, a code, 4471. The landlord changed it every few months. There were cameras in the lobby, old ones, grainy, but they were there. I felt safe. God, I felt so safe. My neighbors were quiet. Mr. Peterson on the 2nd floor, retired, always smelled like pipe tobacco and old books. The Newans across the hall from me, sweet couple, always leaving homemade food outside my door on weekends. And then there was the apartment directly above mine, 5B, empty for 3 months. I never thought about 5B. I should have. Anyway, let me tell you about that Tuesday. It started like every other Tuesday. Alarm at 7:15, snooze twice, up at 7:29, exactly the way I liked it. Just enough time to feel rebellious, not enough time to actually be late. Coffee, black. 2 cups. I had a meeting at 9 that I was slightly dreading. A client who kept changing his mind about a logo we'd been working on for 6 weeks. 6 weeks, for a logo. I remember standing at my kitchen counter, drinking my second coffee, looking out the window at the street below. The man in the gray coat was at his bus stop, 7:43, right on time. I remember thinking some things never change. I had no idea that in 14 hours everything would. Work was fine, normal. The client changed his mind again. This time he wanted the logo in burgundy instead of navy. My colleague James rolled his eyes so hard I thought they'd fall out of his head. We went for lunch at the Thai place around the corner. I had the green curry. It was good. I remember the green curry. Isn't that strange, the things you remember? I took the subway home at 6:30, read half an article on my phone about a study saying city dwellers were lonelier than ever. Looked up at the other passengers. Everyone staring at their phones. I put my phone away and looked out the window for the rest of the ride. The rain started when I got above ground. Light at first, just a mist, the kind that makes the streetlights blur into soft orange halos. I stopped at the corner store, picked up a bottle of wine, nothing fancy, the kind with the bird on the label that I always bought, some pasta, a jar of sauce. Mrs. Kim at the register asked about my week. I told her it was fine. She gave me an extra handful of mints the way she always did. I walked the 4 blocks home, punched in the code, 4471, took the stairs because the elevator was slow and I was only 3 floors up. Unlocked my door, went inside. He was already there. I just didn't know it yet. The first thing I noticed was the smell. Just, barely, just at the edge of my senses, the way you notice something without really registering it. Something cold, something outside, like rain and concrete and something else underneath, something I couldn't name. I remember pausing just inside the door, just for a second, my keys still in my hand. And then my phone buzzed, my friend Dana, asking if I wanted to grab brunch that weekend. And just like that, the moment passed. I hung up my coat, put my keys in the little ceramic bowl by the door. The one my mom gave me when I moved in, pale blue with tiny white flowers. I still have it. Had it. I went to the kitchen, put the pasta on, opened the wine. The rain was getting heavier now. I could hear it against the windows, that specific sound of a real storm settling in. I turned on the small lamp in the corner of the living room, put on a playlist, something low and easy, the kind of music that fills silence without demanding attention. I felt good, comfortable, home. I ate dinner on the couch, watched 2 episodes of a show I'd been slowly working through, a cooking competition, nothing scary, nothing dramatic, just people making food and being nervous about it. I poured a second glass of wine. And that's when I heard it. A sound from the bedroom. Just small. A shift. The kind of sound an apartment makes when it settles, when the temperature changes, when the building breathes. I turned the TV volume down. Listened. Nothing. Just the rain. Just the city. I turned the volume back up, told myself I was being silly. Old buildings make noise. I knew that. 4B had been talking to me for 2 years. Pipes, floors, walls. All of it had its own language, and I had learned it. That sound, that small shifting sound, I told myself it was nothing. I told myself it was just the building. It wasn't the building. The second sign came 20 minutes later. I got up to refill my wine glass, walked to the kitchen, and as I passed the hallway, the short, dark hallway that led to my bedroom and bathroom, I felt it. Cold air. Just a thread of it, just enough to raise the hair on my arms. I stopped, looked down the hallway. Dark. The bedroom door was almost closed, just the way I'd left it that morning. The bathroom door open, the way I always kept it. I told myself the window in the bedroom must have come loose. It had done that before in heavy rain. The old latch would give, and the window would crack open an inch, letting in a blade of cold air. I walked down the hallway, pushed open the bedroom door. The window was closed, latched. I stood there in the doorway of my bedroom, looking at the closed, latched window, and I felt something I had no name for at the time. Looking back now, I know exactly what it was. It was my instincts screaming at me. Get out now. But I didn't listen. I never listened. I stood there for another moment, scanning the room. Bed, dresser, closet door closed, laundry chair with the pile of clothes I kept meaning to deal with. Everything exactly as I'd left it. I told myself I had imagined the cold air. I went back to the couch. I poured my wine. In my closet, behind my winter coats in the back left corner, where the shadows were deepest, it was 10:47 p.m. I remember because I looked at my phone right before it happened, checking the time, thinking I should probably go to bed soon. I had an early meeting. I got up to take my wine glass to the kitchen, and I saw it. The ceramic bowl by the front door, the pale blue one with the white flowers. My keys were facing the wrong way. I know how that sounds. I know, keys facing the wrong way, so what? Who cares? But I am telling you, I had lived in that apartment for 2 years. Every single night, I put my keys in that bowl. And every single night, without thinking about it, without meaning to, the way we all have habits we don't even know we have, my keys landed with the fob facing left. Always left. That night they were facing right. Someone had touched my keys. I stood there staring at them for a long time. And then, because I was 26 and I was tired and I had 2 glasses of wine in me, and I had spent my whole life being told I was too anxious, too jumpy, too sensitive, I picked up my keys, turned the fob to the left where it belonged, and went to bed. I brushed my teeth, washed my face, put on the oversized t-shirt I slept in, the one from a 5K I ran 3 years ago and never ran again. I got into bed. I turned off the light. And in the darkness of my room, with the rain hammering the windows and the city humming below, I heard him breathe. Just once. Just one slow, careful breath from the other side of the room, from the closet. My body went completely still, the way animals go still, not from calm, but from pure animal terror. Every muscle locked, every sense suddenly overwhelmingly awake. I lay there in the dark, not moving, not breathing, listening, nothing. Just the rain, just the city, just my own heartbeat getting louder and louder in my ears. I told myself, a creak, just the building. I told myself that for 45 minutes, lying perfectly still in the dark, listening, until finally exhaustion won over fear, the way it always does, the way it always will. He waited until I was deeply asleep. He was very, very patient. I woke up at 2:17 a.m. No alarm, no noise, no reason. I just woke up. And I knew The way you sometimes know things before you know them, before your brain has caught up, before logic has had a chance to intervene. I knew. I was not alone. I lay completely still, eyes open in the darkness, staring at the ceiling. The apartment was silent in a way it never usually was. Even at 2 a.m., there was always something. A car, a voice from the street, the elevator down the hall. But there was nothing, just silence. And then, so slowly it was almost not a movement at all. The closet door opened. An inch, just an inch, a thin line of deeper darkness in the dark. I stopped breathing. The line widened. 2 inches. 3. And then I saw it. The outline of a shape in the darkness. Tall, still, standing in my closet doorway like he had been standing there for hours. Because he had. He had been in that closet for, I don't know, since before I came home. Maybe longer. I didn't move. We stayed like that, him standing in the closet doorway, me lying in my bed, for what felt like a very long time. And then he took one step into the room. And I ran. I don't remember deciding to run. My body just went. I threw the covers back and I was on my feet and moving before I had a single conscious thought. Pure survival. Pure animal. I hit the bedroom door, yanked it open, flew down the hallway. He was faster than I expected. I heard him behind me. Footsteps heavy and fast, and I remember thinking with one distant, almost calm part of my brain. He knew the apartment. He had been here long enough to know the layout in the dark. I hit the living room, went for the front door. The deadbolt. I had locked the deadbolt. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely, the lock, I couldn't. I got it. I yanked the door open. And his hand came over my shoulder and slammed it shut. I screamed. I screamed as loud as I had ever screamed in my life. The kind of scream you don't know you have in you, until the moment arrives. And he spun me around and I saw his face for the first and last time. I won't describe it. Not because I don't remember, but because I want you to imagine it. I want you to put whatever face frightens you most on his shoulders, because the truth is, he looked ordinary. He looked like someone you pass on the street and never think twice about. That's the most terrifying thing I can tell you. He looked completely ordinary. He said one thing to me, just one thing. I've been watching you for a long time, Sarah. And then the lamp went out, and my story almost ended. Almost. I want you to know I fought. I need you to know that. I didn't freeze. Everything in me, every single thing, fought back. I clawed at his hands. I kicked. I threw us both into the bookshelf by the door. I heard things fall. I felt something cut my foot. I didn't care. I didn't stop. He was bigger than me, stronger, but I was furious. I was so furious. This was my home, my apartment, my pale blue bowl with the white flowers, and my bird label wine, and my keys always facing left. This was mine. I got one hand free, and I hit him. Hard, harder than I knew I could. And for 1 second, one single second, his grip loosened. I ran for the kitchen, the knife block on the counter. I got there. I got my hand around the handle. We struggled for the knife for a long time. I don't know how long. Time does something strange in those moments. It stretches and compresses at the same time, every second lasting forever, and no time passing at all. I remember the rain starting again outside. I remember thinking about the man in the gray coat at the bus stop. I remember thinking about the green curry. I remember thinking, I should have listened, to the smell at the door, to the cold air in the hallway, to the breathing in the dark. I should have listened. I should have run. I didn't win the fight, but I want you to know, I almost did. I almost did. I'm not going to tell you exactly what happened next, not because it isn't important, but because this part of the story doesn't belong to him. This moment, my last moment, that belongs to me. What I will tell you is this: in the very last seconds when I knew, when I understood that this was it, that this was really it, I wasn't afraid of him. I know that might be hard to believe, but it's true. The fear just left, and what came in its place was something I didn't expect. Clarity. Perfect, crystalline clarity. I thought about my mother, the way she laughs, really laughs with her whole body. I thought about Dana, and brunch, and the message I never replied to. I thought about the man in the gray coat, and whether anyone would notice if he stopped showing up. I thought about apartment 4B, my tiny kitchen, my living room window, the city spread out below like a map of everything that mattered. I thought I had a good life, Even if it wasn't long enough, even if it ended like this, I had a good life. The last thing I felt wasn't pain. It was the rain on the window. And then nothing. And then this. They found me the next morning. Mrs. Nguyen from across the hall. She told police later that my door was open, just slightly. And she knew something was wrong, because I always kept it closed. She called 911 from the hallway. She didn't go inside. I'm glad she didn't go inside. The detective assigned to my case, her name was Reyes. I know because I watched. She was good. She was thorough. She walked through my apartment for a long time, just looking at everything. She picked up my keys from the ceramic bowl, looked at them for a long moment, put them back. She knew. I could tell she knew that there was something there, something in those keys and that bowl and the way everything was almost right, but not quite. She's still looking for him. I watch her sometimes. She'll find him. I have to believe she'll find him. Because here's what I need you to understand. Why I'm telling you all of this. Why I'm still here, still talking, still finding ways to make my voice reach you, across whatever this is. He planned this. I was not random. Learnt me. Knew my routines the way I knew the man in the gray coat's routines. From a distance, over time, with patience. He knew what time I came home. He knew my door code, 4471. He knew which apartment was mine. He had been inside before that night, more than once. The keys, the cold air, the smell at the door. Those weren't the first times. He had been inside my home, my safe, beloved home, multiple times before that Tuesday. Learning it. Learning me. I don't tell you this to frighten you. I tell you this because frightened people pay attention. And paying attention, noticing the small things, the wrong things, the things that are almost right but not quite. That is the only thing that could have saved me. The keys facing the wrong way, the cold air in a room with a closed window, one breath in the dark. Whisper, listen to those things, please, listen to the small things. And I should have. I don't know how much longer I have here, in this, whatever this is. This space between. But I needed you to know what happened in apartment 4B on Ravenwood Street on a Tuesday night in November. I needed someone to know. Not just that I died, but that I lived. That I drank terrible wine with a bird on the label, and ate green curry for lunch, and watched cooking competitions, and sat at my window and watched the city like it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. Because it was. It really, really was. Check your locks tonight. Not because I want you to be afraid, but because I want you to come home tomorrow. I want you to sit at your window and watch your city. I want you to answer that message from your friend. I want you to notice the man at the bus stop and think, some things never change. I was Sarah Holloway. I was 26 years old. I lived in apartment 4B on Ravenwood Street. And I had a beautiful, beautiful life. And if you ever feel it, that cold air where there shouldn't be cold air, that sound that isn't quite the building settling, that feeling of being watched in a room where you're supposed to be alone. Run. Just run. Don't be like me. Run.